Now, I would just like to quickly tell you a bit about the best practices that we must follow while creating a financial model. Now, it's the list that you see on the screen is definitely not an exhaustive list, but broadly speaking, these are certain basic things that we must ensure while working on a financial model. Because if we follow these best practices in our financial model, then most likely your model will look a little robust. Because if we follow certain basic rules, we follow these best practices, we are able to ensure that the model follows coherency. The model is flexible and robust, and we are able to actually make proper changes in that model and use it for whatever purpose we want. Otherwise, what may happen that I may do something in that model, somebody else working on the same model may do something else, and the third person may do something else. So it's important that we kind of follow these best practices so that even the model build exercise becomes a little easier for us to handle. Right? So I would briefly just talk about these best practices here, but when we would work on the case study of the financial modeling topic, then I'm going to revisit each and every best practice out there, and I will show that to you as to how you can actually incorporate these best practices while working on a financial model. Right? So that demonstration will happen once you have the case study of model in front of you. So right now I'm just trying to give you a broad sense as to how it needs to be captured while working on a model. Right? So let's just go through it. Number one, the model should follow a linear structure. What I mean by a linear structure is that when I was talking about this sequence that you kind of start with inputs, go to the working, and finally the output. That sequence is actually called a linear structure, because logically speaking, you think about inputs first, then you use those inputs to create the working schedules, then you use the output of working schedules to create the final output. That's what we call as a linear structure. So you can start from input, go to the working, and then get the output, or you can just flip the sequence. You can start with output, have the working, and then show the assumptions. But don't mix it up. If you just have let's say you're working on a financial model for some FMCG company, and that FMCG company is having so many products, so you decide to have 5 different worksheets just for taking the inputs. So have all of those 5 input sheets together. Then whatever number of working sheets you have, put that block together. And then finally go to the output section. Don't mix it. Don't do this stuff that you have 2 input sheets, 3 working sheet, and then you have the P&L output. And then again some input sheet appears, and then you have balance sheet. And then the remaining worksheets related to the working sections are there. Now that's something which we should not do. Not because it will make our model look a little clumsy, but also the navigation would be difficult, even for us and obviously for the end user as well. Right? So follow a proper linear structure. Other best practice that we need to follow to the extent possible is that the model is going to have so many worksheets. And obviously in each of these worksheets, we have so many years to work upon. So try to ensure that we use same column number in each sheet for a particular year number. For instance, if in the input sheet, I'm going to use column F for 2021, then make sure that you use the same column F for 2021 in all other worksheets as well. Because if in a model you've got 25 worksheets, then to the extent possible, you need to ensure that the same column number is dedicated for that particular year number. That's called column consistency. Now, it might look very basic, but honestly speaking, it's a very good thing to have in a model. Number one, it helps you to easily navigate the various worksheets, because the moment you go to any worksheet, you have in your mind that this particular column is showing this particular year number. Number two, while writing a formula, you will find it a little easy to refer to a particular cell. If you're writing formula for 2021 in a working sheet, and then you are referring to some cell in the input section, then you know in your mind that I have to go to column F because I'm writing the formula in column F in this worksheet. There could be a deliberate reason that I want to refer to some other column number, but broadly speaking, it could be a quick check for me for writing the formula as well. So try to ensure that you follow column consistency. Next, no hard coding. Strictly no hard coding should be done in the working or output section. Because you see, in the financial model, we have dedicated one single sheet, which is input and assumption, or you could have a block of sheets together for the inputs. Use that section for giving whatever hard-coded values you want. But never ever include any hard coding in any other worksheet. If it is related to the working, if it is related to output, do not use any hard coding. Always put those hard coded inputs in a single cell in the working, not in the working, but in the input and assumption section, and then call it. So the way it needs to flow is, if I take you back to the model map, here you have the assumptions section. Include the hard-coded inputs only and only in the assumption section and nowhere else. That's a very, very important rule that we must follow, because it will help us to make changes to those assumptions in an easier way, because then I would know as a matter of fact that for whatever changes I want to do to my inputs, I have to go to that section and do it. Otherwise, I'll just be all over the place if I don't know which cell is having an input. So that's why it is recommended that use hard-coded inputs only in the inputs and assumption section. All right. Next, try to use consistent formula across the row for all the years. Meaning, if you have written a formula for, say, 2021, then it should be written in such a way that you're able to copy and paste that formula to 2022, 23, 24, 25, and so on and so forth. If you've written your formula in a way that you write one formula for projection year number 1, and then you have to make changes to it to write a formula for the second year, then obviously we are not doing it right. Right? Not because it is against the best practice, but also that at a later stage, once you will have to make some changes in your model, and that requires some change in the formula also, for instance, then you have to make that change in individual cells again and again. But if you have kind of used a flat formula across the row in a consistent way, then you know that I just have to make a change in the first year and simply copy and paste it on the right hand side for the subsequent years. So that's how you can kind of ensure that this column consistency in terms of, the formula consistency is going to help you out. Right? Next is more from navigation perspective, that you could just freeze the top row and the left column, so that once you move your screen on the right hand side, or you move your sheet a little downwards, then you're able to see the headers and also see the particulars included on the left hand side. So it's more from the navigation perspective, that when you go downwards or towards side, then the basic data which is included at the top, or the basic data which is included on the left hand side, that should be visible to us every time. So use the freezing concept out there in Excel, and how to do that and how it can be incorporated in our files, we will see all of that as we proceed further. Next is modeling is not an Excel competition, to be honest. Modeling is about incorporating logics properly with the help of simple formulae. I would never encourage that you need to use complex formulae to showcase your modeling skills. Majority of the stuff in the financial models can be done if you know the basic formulae. So try to use simple and small formulae. As a rule of thumb, do not increase the length of a formula. If for some reason there is a logic which is pretty complex, then you might want to break that logic into multiple rows and then write the final formula which is shorter. Because writing a big formula means that at a later stage, once you may have to do some changes, would require some extra time from your side to be able to decipher what is included in the logic. And at the same time, it makes it less transparent for the end client. Because a big formula or a detailed complex logic included in one single cell is going to lose transparency, because the end user of the model may not be able to understand what that formula is trying to do. But the moment you break that complex formula into various rows, because now you have kind of broken that logic into multiple steps, then you can use that, right? So try to use small formulae. Next is put appropriate checks in the model. As I just discussed a while ago, I spoke about cell check, row check, sheet check, and master check. So include those checks in place in the financial model. And last but not the least is use flags as appropriate. Now, this is not a flag of a country or so, but more like a technical jargon that we use for financial modeling. Flag could be any number or could be any logic that we incorporate to simplify the understanding. Now, it could be as simple as the year number. So if I've got 10 years in the financial model for the next 10 years, then the year number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up to 10, that could be a flag for us. There is a logic that I want to incorporate whether something is going to be done in this year or not, which is like a switch on, switch off kind of thing. I could have a true and false kind of flag. I could have a 1-0 kind of flag. Now, we will discuss all of that in detail and you will get to understand this better once I would walk you through with the financial model, right? So once specifically in the project finance topic, once I'm going to show you the project finance model, there you would see that these flags are pretty relevant. And not just in project finance model, in fact, in any other financial model, you might have to use flags pretty often to simplify your logics that you're going to put in the file, right? So I've tried to kind of explain what are the basic things that we must keep in our mind while working on a financial model, because if we follow these rules, then it is going to simplify our task only. It is going to help us to create that model properly. So try to incorporate all of these areas in whatever financial model you work upon.